Hello, everyone. D. Alfred Ostrowski here. In this recording, I'm going to be giving a demo of BigQuery data warehouse platform on the Google Cloud Platform. So we're going to be loading some data, starting from ground zero, and demonstrating how we can load the data into BigQuery and query that data. So let's get started. I'm at cloud.google.com. And the only thing I'm assuming at this point is that you could have a Gmail account. One thing, it does have to be secured with your credit information because you will be billed. So be very careful with the billing, okay? And the way to turn off any charges at all is to disable billing as associated with the project. We'll get into the details of that moving forward, but I want to reemphasize that. Go through the billing processes and the procedures and absolutely make sure that you have a good understanding and have the appropriate billing alarms set up. So you're not going to be surprised at the end of the month with an inappropriate bill. So let's get started. I'm going to go to the console, and that is going to be accomplished by either clicking slightly to the left middle here or the upper right here to the console. So let's go to that. I'm going to be loading a data set as described in the O'Reilly text data science on the Google Cloud Platform. And the author's name here is a little bit hard to pronounce. So the Lax Shmananan. Apologies for any pronunciation here, but we're going to be following through an abbreviated set of instructions here to get this BigQuery data set up and running and readable from the cloud. So once we have got into the appropriate page here, I'm going to now go to activate the Cloud Shell. And this is in the upper right. So you see the shell coming up. And one thing I want to also point out here is I have my projects listed here. You're going to want to initialize a project if you haven't done so already. I already have a lot of projects that have been initialized, and I'm not interested in creating a brand new project. So projects are not easily removed and eliminated from the system, and I am restricted to the number of projects per billing account. I think it's 5 projects per billing account, but don't quote me on it. But I'm going to run through the steps again, starting from ground zero here. I can do a new project by clicking in the upper right-hand corner. It'll generate a project name. I can use that if I want. And it'll make an association with a billing account. Now, if you start off in the Google Cloud Platform, you're going to have a $300 associated with your initial billing account. I don't believe that you have to go through any specific process to get that to show up. So you should have a billing account that you can make an association with, and you're going to want to choose that. My suggestion is to keep it to one billing account, keep things simple. And I don't have any location identified, and then I would hit a create. And I don't have to do this point, so since I already have projects allocated, but just to show you, unless this is your very first time in the Google Cloud Platform. So I brought up the shell terminal, and my first project, it has a mnemonic of neon pad that was assigned by Google Cloud. And that project's been activated, so it's going to show up in yellow when I bring up the terminal prompt. And I can list the same set of items of projects here that can be selected or reselected. I could do the command G cloud projects list, and that's going to list off manually. If I can do authorization on that shell. And you can see here listed off the same projects with the appropriate naming mnemonics. And I can also go into, I can do just about everything through the graphical interface I can do in the shell terminal. And this gives me an advantage because it's somewhat self-documenting if I want to store those commands off. By the way, I'm going to keep all these commands on a GitHub. That'll be posted underneath this video, so you don't have to worry about copying all the commands down or paying particular attention to the exact syntax of the commands. Provide all that with the video. So I'm going to do a gcloud config set project. And then here I could even pick a different project ID and number. And let me, I can successfully paste that in. And I can bring in the config set project. So I know I'm not going to spell it the wrong way. And I can reassign the project. In this case, I'm omitted the first character, so that's why I gave me an error. So let me try that in there. So now I'll reset, and you can see oval blend that showed up here. So I can reset it back. Let's go back. I just wanted to show you that you can reset that project from the command line. And again, just about everything, and it is a good to know. It's always good to be able to do an activity more than one way. It's going to give you a lot more flexibility. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just create a separate directory. Now, I've done a lot of earlier experiments. Regardless of the project, it always keeps you in the same shell. So you see here, I have a lot of separate directories that are open. So I'm going to create a BQ directory for BigQuery. And I'm going to go to that directory. That way, everything is fresh. I have a clean directory to work with. And I'm not going to confuse this with any of my other prior activities. So I'm going to grab some of the startup scripts from that Google Cloud Platform book, the Data Science on GCP book. And I'm pulling that down with the git clone command from their associated respective GitHub site. So now that I've cloned that, I can go to the main directory, and I'm going to pull the ingest script from chapter 2 that's under 02 ingest. I'm going to use the download shell directory. Let's take a quick look at that, and that is going to point me to a bash script that's going to download from the Google Storage APIs. And one thing Google is pretty good with providing a lot of data sets that you can work with. If you go into BigQuery, there are also default data sets that are already preloaded into BigQuery, allowing you to do the querying. But here we're more concerned about doing the data ingest. And if you can work with these files, then you can match it up with the same format and easily load in any of your data of your desire, and you can pull that in a similar fashion. So essentially, this script is going to the storage.googleapis.com site, data science on GCP, and it is going to download some shell scripts files and grabbing essentially the year and month. And I can use this script, and actually just to simplify it, I'm just going to take a single month instead of running through, and I'm going to provide in the commands that came along with the book. They instruct you to pull down all 12 months, which gets you close to a gig of data. But here I'm just going to work with a few thousand records, let's say 5,000, just load that in directly into BigQuery, because I don't need a gig or two to demonstrate or warm up to the use of BigQuery. So let me do that. I'm just going to bring in this one command here. I'm going to do a bash, and I'm going to load the script, but I'm only going to run 1 month. So this says read in 2 parameters, the download shell, the parameter of the year, and 1 for the January. I'm going to run that from the bash prompt. And so it's going to, it downloads that file appropriately. And you can see here, I do the listing on that with the size. It's still pretty sizable. It's 200 meg or so. And I'm going to pare that down even a little bit more just for brevity, just easy use. Again, I'm not worried about seeing how much data I can load in. And again, I would encourage you, if you're warming up to working with the cloud and some of the related technologies, you don't really need a lot of data to start proving out your concepts and warming up, especially in the light of making sure that you're not running through your free resources that you're initially allocated with, or running up a bill unnecessarily if you're not running data and if you're just using it more of a sandbox as I do. So I'm just going to pull in some 5,000 records. I'm going to pare it down really quickly with just some Python code that you see here. And I'll just type in the command prompt. Doesn't really make sense for me to try anything really elaborate. It's not a lot of information. So I can read in that file by quickly simply doing an open command. So I can do f equals open. And that was 201.501, right? CSV. And do a read lines on that. That's going to read all my contents into the file. And when I do a length on that, again, I should have looks about almost 500,000 lines, and I can write an output file that I can write to, and I'll call it 201.501 short CSV. And I'm gonna make that writable, right? So now I can iterate through a loop. And I'm going to pull in 5,000 just to make it short, and I'm going to write from that object that I wrote to. So, and the file's going to close. So here I have that short file, and I can cat that to more. And you can see the format of that file without scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So the first line of that file is header information. It's all CSV formatted and quoted all the data and the data following that, all the records following that. So I should be able to just break out of that script and not even have to go any further. So I have the data. I'm ready to load. I got two main activities left, and that is I have to create a bucket. It's a storage container on the Google Cloud Platform. And from that bucket, then I'm going to load that into BigQuery, and then I'll be able to immediately go in and query that. So I'm going to do this, and I could create that bucket from the shell prompt in most cases. And but here I'm just going to create it from the GUI prompt here. So I'm going to search for buckets, or it should be buckets. Good enough. If you see here, create is not highlighted. It's not enabled. I have a project set up, but I have to attach billing for that. So I'm going to go into billing projects I can search for, and that'll take me to the accounts. And this is the default, right? Billing is disabled, to the point I brought up earlier. If you want to use the console, you have to enable that. But when you're done and you don't want to be charged anymore, most importantly, especially for something that may be allocated, or you loaded data into BigQuery, you don't want to be charged incrementally, then you're going to want to turn off the billing. But for now, to create that bucket, I'm going to need to enable the billing. So I'm going to do a change billing on that. I think I got the right one. And it's asking for the billing accounts, which I have more than one. I'm going to set that account, and then it will enable my billing for the appropriate. You can see here, and you also get notifications up here for the activities. And if you have any kind of errors that occur, you can always check up there for additional diagnostics. So let me go into buckets. And now something's going to change when I look at buckets, right? I'll be able to create that. I have the create now is enabled because I enabled my billing for the account. Okay. So let me go into that. And I'm going to just call it, I believe I need to use lowercase. So I'm going to say BQ bucket test. And I need to scroll down. I'm kind of limited in real estate to hit that create, and everything else is going to be defaulted. Oh, didn't like the name. Let me rename it bucket test 2. Let's see if that will take it now. There we go. So I'm going to want to remember this for my next command here. So I'm going to do a copy into that bucket. And I'm staging off screen here, but let me pull it in here and show you exactly what I'm doing. So here I'm going to do a copy of that CSV line, and I have 2 CSVs. I want only the short one to be brought in. So I'm going to say, I believe it's 201-501, if I'm not mistaken, short CSV. And we'll double check that when I pull that in there into bucket test 2 with the Google storage. And I'm using the gsutil command to accomplish this. So let me pull this in. And again, all the commands are going to be stored here. So let's do an ls, and this we can double check that that file name here. So it's a 201-501 short.csv into the bucket test 2. It looks good. So let's try it out. Shouldn't take too long. And again, buying a little bit amount of brevity here because I pared down that file set. And it doesn't matter whether I'm loading in 5,000 or 5 million records, right? I want to, at this point, just demonstrate the utility of loading into the bucket and then correspondingly into the BigQuery. So the next activities, I'm going to want to create a data set and then do a load of my file into it. So let's go into BigQuery, and I'm going to show you 2 ways to create that data set. So how do I get to BigQuery? I can just search on BigQuery. I have it buffered because I've already been there before. And I can click on the response there. And of course, you're going to want to use those terms. If you haven't prior, then you're not going to have that buffered in already. So you can see my project's already loaded in BigQuery. And I have some tables that have already been established. So I can click to the right and I can create a data set. I'm just going to name it April data. And I can create a data set that way. You see it showed up here. And I can also, correspondingly, I can do a similar operation and do a BQ, BQ MK, and let's say it May data set or May data. And I can call from there. Now, it's not going to immediately update it, but you can see that it's created and also would show in the, it should show in the notification as it's occurring or eventually. And I can refresh everything entirely and it should show up. Of course, it may kill my shell prompt. I can bring that back immediately. But let's go back to the project and see I had April and then I set May. And you can see the May data set is set up here. So I can reactivate my Cloud Shell and I'm back in business with that. So I can use either one. And now I'm going to do a BQ load command. And I'm going to take it from that bucket. And in this case, it was bucket test 2. And I'm going to load it into May data. And I loaded it from 201-501 short. So I'm going to make sure I stage this appropriately and get that command right from the last time that I've done that. And everything should be good to go. So reviewing that file here, BQ, going to do a load, set the auto detect source format. It says a CSV, and I'm going to load as May data. And this is flight information. And I'm going to load it from my bucket that I set up here. So copy that in the command line. And that didn't do it. Let me try one more time here. There we go. BQ load, auto detect, source format CSV, main data, flight auto. And there you have it. So let's see if that loads. It looks good. So let's open the query and we should be able to access that data at this point. Couple extra windows that brought up, but here I have the schema, and let me bring up a new tab. Make sure I'm back into the right interface here. There we go. I want to grab that project and open the query here. So here it also brought in a reference to a lot of the public data that's associated with Big Query, and this is some of the points that I was making earlier, that they give you a lot of additional data that you can load in here. So let me try the demo query from my activated project here. This is where I want to run from. So let me click on main data. And you can see that schema here. This matches it from the flight auto. And I can create that in a new tab. And here I have a SQL prompt that comes up. And I can take any of the attributes here. Let me just dump the data to the screen. And it'll just dump it in table format. Of course, you can generate JSON-based output from it, and you can manipulate the queries, and you have a lot of other example data, but this demo is to pull in our own data, which we did from a CSV, and you could modify that to ingest basically any data set that you're interested in. You can modify the query by looking at the attributes, and you can click into any of the data here to scroll through the attributes and make sure that your entire schema has been loaded from that first header file and do the associated queries that you see here. So there you have it. That is a quick demo pulling in the data. I hope this helps, and thank you for listening. And I hope this is useful. Okay, again, I'll have all the commands stored on a GitHub reference from this video. Thanks for listening. Take care. Thank you.